What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Golden Edge Mailbag. He's Adam Hill, I'm Ben Gotz. We're your Review Journal Golden Knights reporters here every week to answer your questions. Little delayed this week because we've got hashtag Vegas Madness in town with all the conference college basketball tournaments, but we are here. We stay true to our word and our schedule. As always, make sure to send us your questions. I'm at Ben S. Gotz, G-O-T-Z, on Twitter. He is at Adam Hill, LVRJ. Or you can email me at bgotz@reviewjournal.com. Adam, how's it going?
It's good. Is this the official sign of everything going on in Vegas?
Madness.
Okay, that's
Madness
good.
is just swirling around our heads.
That's fair. I think that makes sense, actually.
Yeah, and it's a topsy-turvy world because actually we had some breaking news this morning. Erik Brannstrom, formerly the Knights' top defensive prospect, who is now with the Ottawa Senators thanks to the trade that brought Mark Stone to the Vegas Golden Knights, is going to make his NHL debut tonight. Adam, what are your thoughts?
Very interesting that they're going to go and use him. It makes sense. I mean, they want to get a look at their new young prize defenseman that they acquired in the trade. And, I'm sure Golden Knights fans will be watching very eagerly. I'm sure there's a lot of them that will say, if he does very well, see, I told you we shouldn't have got rid of him. And then if he falls flat on his face, people say, yeah, we got the best of the trade, but guess what? It's one game. It's going to make his debut. He's going to play a few games here. This stretch of games is not going to determine what he's going to be as an NHL player, but I think it'll be very interesting for people to see a guy that they have followed for a while now make his NHL debut finally.
Yeah, obviously good for Brannstrom finally getting an opportunity here. He's still a young guy. This is his first season actually playing in North America, so he's got a lot of developing kind of still to do. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays out with the Senators. I mean, they're a team that's clearly out of it at this point. They have not had a very good season, so why not? Get the guy a little bit time in the NHL and see what you got there. All right, well, moving on from news, let's get to some question. We have this one from Jeff. Has the first line essentially been replaced by the second line? Are opposing teams still placing their first line against our first line, or are they guarding our second line? So I think this is really interesting, Adam, because the first and the second line kind of nomenclature that we use has really been turned, I think, a little bit topsy-turvy with the addition of Mark Stone to Paul Stastny and Max Pacioretty's line.
Yeah, I think the second line right now is probably better than the first line. I mean, just watching them play, seeing what they generate, the first line is still very good. And I think the issue here is a lot of people want to make is that the first line, the second line, they want to call it, whatever name they want to refer to it by. In the end, it doesn't matter. I think the Golden Knights are thrilled right now that they have two really, really potent lines up top. And even more thrilled that enables them to have a pretty good third line right now. And that's really what is working out for them. They can roll lines. It doesn't really matter who's in there. Now, obviously, the first and the second line are going to get the bulk of the time. The fourth line is more of an old-school checking line that creates havoc, but they also have a lot of offensive firepower as well. So, I think that's where the Golden Knights are very happy right now. If you need to say the first line or the second line, which one is better or which one is the actual first line, I think the so-called second line is right now the first line, but really that's a great problem to have.
Yeah, well, Coach Gerard Gallant said this week, that healthy competition is good. And it's been good that they've been competing for ice time. That second line of Stone, Stastny, and Pacioretty has actually played more than the first line in 5 of the last 7 games. Another one of those games that they were tied with the first line of William Karlsson, Jonathan Marchessault, and Riley Smith for ice time. But I do think it breeds a good internal competition here. William Karlsson said before the game against the Anaheim Ducks, hey, they're kind of showing us how to do it, and we're not just going to basically step aside and let them kind of take over. We want to still produce too. And I think you've seen both those lines playing really, really well because they want to make sure that they're getting that next shift, that they're going to be the line that's going to be finishing out the games for the Knights. And a lot of them recently have been wins, which is probably connected.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things you have working out right now for you is, as we said, both lines are competing against each other. That healthy competition is good. It's also good among the defensemen. I mean, I think they've got 7 defensemen right now that are very capable of playing and playing well and competing for ice time, and they're doing that right now. Right now, Nick Holden kind of the odd man out, but, you've got these forward lines that it doesn't really matter who's called the first line or who starts the game. They're getting a lot of playing time and they're getting a lot of chances, and as they're battling, the first line, as you said, now they want to get more ice time, so they're going to start competing for it. That really helps out the team dynamic, and I think it's good all around. And I think it helps that they have a lot of chemistry. I mean, there could be some resentment or some, I guess that's the best word maybe to use. Hey, these guys came in, we were the guys last year. What are they doing out there? But I think everybody gets along, and the room really works out well, and that helps foster some good competition.
Yeah, definitely a quote unquote problem the Knights are happy to have right now. We had another thing about Mark Stone, actually, so moving on. Show me a place that's not easy to get used to for a $9.5 million average annual value and no state or corporate tax. That is from @VegasPlayerGuide, referring to Mark Stone's 8-year contract extension he signed last Friday, about 6 days ago. He's adjusting well, Adam, but obviously that payday makes things pretty easy to get adjusted to.
Yeah, and I think the reference here is, you're getting a huge salary and you're getting no state tax, which is very beneficial. Makes that take-home pay a little bit nicer. Even those guys notice it. It's not just you and me and the average person out there that notices the take-home pay. They know it too. And in those places, and he was in Canada obviously, so your money's impacted by playing in a state with more taxes. But I don't think that's really the case here. I think it's more about the team environment, what they have created here. Also living in Las Vegas, who would ever not like that? That's the greatest place in the world. Where they live out there, with the facility being great, the organization being great. I think those things help welcome a new player besides just the money that he's getting. And, just everything that's been fostered in the locker room as well. I mean, it just seems to be a place that people want to go. Plus, we know that Mark Stone is dealing with a different level of media attention now, which helps as well.
Yeah. Getting out of that Canadian market, I think, was, he won't say it, but I think it's kind of huge. I mean, Max Pacioretty and Paul Stastny, I asked both of them about it recently, and they are just so different, around us, I think, than the Canadian media because it's so much more intense there. I mean, Paul Stastny said when the NFL starts, it's all NFL on ESPN. When hockey starts in Canada, that's all that's on TV. It's hockey, and that's it. And so now all of a sudden you kind of go to a market that's just less intense that way, and there's less pressure there, especially because with the Vegas Golden Knights, he can kind of be just one of the guys. He's not wearing an A on his chest like he was when he was with the Ottawa Senators. He's just kind of blending in right now, but he's obviously a very good piece to have just kind of blend into the locker room.
Now, as far as the media goes, I mean, they do have to deal with us every day, which probably...
We're tough people.
That's probably a negative, but yeah, I think it's just a different level of attention. And I think what we mean by that, for those that don't know, it's every day, there might be, some days there's 4, some days there's like 15 people in the locker room here for media after a practice. Up in Canada, it might be 20, 25, 30, and it's just everybody grilling you and going intense every day. It's just a different level here. So I think that's something that's been talked about and that we've noticed, and I think that's one of the many factors of why players want to play in Las Vegas. We heard Mark Stone said he's like, yeah, Vegas, okay, that's it, that's good, I'll take that, I'll get the long-term deal there. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, he was very excited about it. He did get recognized on the Strip, like right after moving here there. He went shopping with Cody Eakin, and he got recognized. That was kind of funny. He also did say he has a couple big purchases lined up. He said, I owe these guys a dinner, so he's going to buy a team dinner at some point. And he's looking to buy a house. He's toured a couple neighborhoods so far. He is renting right now, but he's looking to get a permanent house down. All right, we got one last one to go to. This is from Ken. Very nice email from Ken. Nice to read the history behind these athletes. We have a picture of Ryan Carpenter up there, Adam, because you wrote, I thought, a very interesting kind of personality look at Ryan Carpenter to help readers get to know a little bit more about him recently.
Yeah, and Ryan Carpenter is a guy who grew up in Florida, which is a very odd place for a hockey player to grow up. He moved up north. Came from a family that went to church every Sunday and just a normal family in Florida. But he said when he moved up north to play hockey, he kind of got away from a lot of the values he had learned as a child and kind of rediscovered his faith in college, and it's very important to him. And I noticed it because I attended a celebrity basketball game that Ryan Carpenter and Nick Holden coached against each other in. I'll say this, Ryan Carpenter, not a great basketball coach. That's okay. It's not his job. His job to play hockey, and he's good at that, so he can stick to that. But yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting for me to get to know a little bit more about the background of Ryan Carpenter, so hopefully the readers agreed with that.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. And of course, I got to catch up with Braden McNabb a little bit recently, learned that he grew up on a grain farm in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, not just any town either.
No, a tiny, tiny town. The nearest town to him technically isn't even a town anymore. They said you're too small to be a town in 2005 and revoked their township, which is incredible. So yeah, it's just I wrote a story about Braden McNabb growing up on 7,000 acres.
His rink fell down.
His rink literally fell down. That was his exact quote. I asked him how he learned to play hockey. He's like, there was a rink about 6 miles east of me. I used to have to flood it myself. But when I was 10, it, quote unquote, fell down. And he had to move to a town 15 miles over to continue playing.
I'm glad he wasn't in the rink when it fell down.
He was not in the rink.
That's good.
My favorite part of that story was also he then played for a juniors team in Canada in a town of about 19,000 people, and he was like, "Yep, I was living the big city life."
That's hilarious.
With the Kootenay Ice. Then, of course, he ends up playing for the Los Angeles Kings and the Vegas Golden Knights in the NHL.
Those
So,
are big cities.
a little bit of a culture shock for him there. But yeah, it was fun to get to know him, just as I'm sure it was fun for you to get to know Ryan Carpenter. And we want to know how you want to know how to get to know these athletes better. If you have questions about these guys or their backgrounds, remember, you can send them to us at Ben S. Gotz on Twitter, at Adam Hill LVRJ, or bgotz@reviewjournal.com. For Adam Hill, I'm Ben Gotz. Thanks for watching The Golden Edge.